When a man goes quiet, most people assume he's losing interest. But that silence, that pause, isn't always a sign of retreat. Sometimes it's the moment before he dives deeper. You see, men don't fall in love through endless words. They fall in love through understanding, through reflection, through the storm inside that forces them to question what they truly feel. When he steps back, it's not rejection, it's recalibration. Hess, trying to make sense of the intensity that just hit him. Because when a man truly starts to feel something real, it challenges everything he thought he knew about control, pride, and independence. That's not fear, that's transformation. A man who ignores you after connection isn't necessarily running away. Often Hess, standing at the edge of something, has never experienced vulnerability. And vulnerability, to a man who's built his identity on strength, can feel like exposure. It's not easy for him to let the armor crack. Stillness doesn't mean absence. It often means depth. The same way the ocean looks calm on the surface, but hides powerful currents underneath. A man in love becomes silent because Hess feeling too much, not too little. His silence isn't avoidance, it's self-confrontation. Hess asking himself questions he never asked before. Can I trust this? Can I be enough for her? Can I let her see the real me? When you don't understand that stillness, you panic. You think Hess pulling away, but sometimes that distance is where a man decides what kind of love Hess capable of giving. Emotional resistance is his process. Because unlike fleeting attraction, love demands structure. It demands a man to build an inner foundation before he offers his heart. Most people want emotional fireworks, constant validation, constant noise, but real connection doesn't work that way. Love doesn't always roar, sometimes it whispers. It lives in the consistency of his effort, the steadiness of his presence, the look in his eyes when he finally understands what you mean to him. When a man falls deeper, he won't always express it instantly. He studies you, he observes, he admires how you handle yourself when he's not there to reassure you. He tests your silence, not to play games, but to see if your energy remains solid when words disappear. Because the woman who doesn't chase his confusion but stays grounded in her own worth becomes magnetic beyond comprehension. He's not ignoring you. He's falling deeper in love in the only way he knows how, through internal battle. He's fighting his fear of losing control, of needing someone, of being exposed. Every moment he spends in silence, Hess confronting that fear, molding it into something stronger commitment. You must understand a man's emotional process isn't loud. It's built in private. He doesn't fall for you because of how much you demand attention. He falls because your presence makes him want to become better. That's why you don't chase the silence. You let it do its work. You let the distance refine what's real. A woman ground. Dee, in her self-respect, doesn't panic when things go quiet. She observes, she grows, she lets him come back as the man has meant to be. Because love that's rushed collapses. But love that's forged in reflection, that survives the silence, that's the love that lasts. So when you feel ignored, stop reacting, breathe. Understand what's really happening underneath. His stillness is the echo of something powerful building within him. Has not gone, has changing, has falling deeper. And the man who truly loves doesn't stay silent forever. He returns, not with noise, but with certainty. That's not avoidance. That's evolution. People panic when silence enters a connection. They start assuming distance, assuming disinterest, assuming it's over. But silence isn't always a retreat. Sometimes it's a recalibration. Stillness doesn't mean absence. It means something deeper is taking shape beneath the surface. When a man grows quiet, it's rarely because he stopped caring. It's often because what he feels is growing louder inside than words can express outside. In moments of quiet, Hes not escaping you, Hes confronting himself. Love, for many men, isn't something that arrives peacefully. It's disruptive. It shakes the structure of who they believe they are. It challenges their emotional order. The silence isn't neglect, it's him wrestling with a truth that's beginning to overpower his logic. When he starts to feel something real, he doesn't rush to label it. He studies it, resists it, tries to understand it, and that takes silence. Stillness is the soil where emotional depth grows. It's the pause before the transformation. Because real connection isn't built in noise, it's built in understanding. A man who takes a step back might be gathering the strength to step forward with certainty. The immature run when they're overwhelmed. The evolved pause, reflect, and realign. That's not weakness, that's control. And here's the truth, most people overlook love that's loud too early, usually burns out, but love that's quiet, thoughtful, reflective, that's the kind that endures. Stillness is where authenticity is born. When the rush fades and silence enters, that's when two people either crumble or evolve. Because stillness reveals what's real. It exposes insecurities, tests patience, and strips away performance. It's not about constant conversation, it's about consistent energy. When a man withdraws into his own world, Hes not necessarily disappearing, Hes protecting the parts of himself, Hes not ready to show. Hes figuring out if this love demands more of him and if Hes capable of giving it. The strongest relationships aren't between two people who never fall silent. They're between two people who can sit in silence and still feel connected. Stillness is not empty space, it's potential energy. It's the mind and heart aligning before expression. Think of it like the ocean, it looks calm, but underneath there are currents shaping waves. That's what emotional stillness is, invisible movement. While you're wondering if Hes detached, Hes actually absorbing, reflecting, and deepening his emotional blueprint. Most people don't have the patience for that process. They demand constant reassurance because they mistake noise for connection. But the truth is, the man who truly values you won't always speak instantly. He'll go silent to ensure that when he does speak, his words are rooted in clarity, not impulse. That silence is his workshop where thought becomes conviction. You must learn to stop fearing the stillness. It's not rejection, it's refinement. The woman who understands this doesn't chase confusion, she commands calm. She doesn't fill the silence with desperation, she fills it with certainty. Because she knows real love is not a sprint of emotion, it's a rhythm of understanding. Stillness reveals the difference between attachment and connection. Attachment panics in silence. Connection breathes in it. When a man is falling deeper, he often becomes quieter, not because Hes pulling away, but because Hes learning how to carry what he feels. Hes trying to build emotional structure strong enough to hold the weight of something real. So when Hes silent, don't break. Don't assume absence. See the depth. Recognize that stillness isn't a void, it's a bridge between what he feels and what Hes becoming. If you can hold your own energy through that, you'll witness what most never do: a man who returns not confused, but certain, not distracted, but devoted. Stillness doesn't mean Hes gone. It means Hes growing. And when that growth is done, when he comes back, he won't be the same man, he'll be one who understands what you truly mean to him. That's not distance. That's depth. That's how real love is built quietly, deliberately, deeply. Love grows in silence, not in noise. Most people mistake volume for value. They think the louder the affection, the stronger the connection. But real love doesn't need to shout, it whispers. It grows in the quiet moments when no one's watching, in the still spaces between words, in the presence that doesn't demand attention but commands peace. Love doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides in silence, building strength while the world rushes past in noise. Noise is easy. Anyone can say the right things when emotions run high. Anyone can promise forever when the music's loud, the lights are bright, and everything feels perfect. But when the excitement fades and silence enters, that's when truth begins. That's when love is tested, and that's where it grows. Because love doesn't bloom under constant stimulation, it matures under reflection, patience, and understanding. When two people can sit in silence and still feel connected, that's when love becomes powerful. Silence strips away performance. It reveals authenticity. It's in those quiet moments you see who's real, who stays calm when there's nothing to prove, who stays present when there's nothing to gain. Love that depends on constant reassurance is fragile. It needs noise to survive. But love that thrives in silence is unbreakable. It stands even when words fail. Love grows in silence because silence teaches discipline. It teaches you to listen, not to reply, but to understand. It forces you to look deeper than what's said and feel what's real. In silence, two souls can communicate beyond language. A glance, a touch, a breath all become expressions of something deeper than sound. Because connection isn't measured by conversation, it's measured by energy. And that's where most lose it. They chase words, they chase validation, they chase constant proof. But love isn't found in constant motion, it's found in quiet alignment. The greatest love stories are built by people who don't need to talk all the time, they just know. They feel safe enough to let silence speak. Because silence isn't emptiness, it's trust. When you can be silent with someone and still feel understood, that's connection in its purest form. Love grows in silence because silence demands presence. It's easy to love in chaos. It's hard to love in calm. But the calm is where you learn patience. It's where you learn that connection isn't about how much you speak. It's about how much you stay. The truest form of love doesn't crave constant affirmation, it seeks consistency. It's built in small gestures, soft moments, and unspoken understanding. When a man falls in love deeply, he may grow quieter. Not because he's losing interest, but because he's processing the gravity of what he feels. Real emotion humbles him. It makes him think, reflect, and protect what's building inside. His silence is not withdrawal, it's construction. Hairs building something steady, not impulsive. Hairs making sure that when he moves, it's with purpose, not confusion. A woman grounded in her worth doesn't mistake that silence for distance. She doesn't panic when things grow still. She recognizes it as the space where love matures. Because she understands noise is fleeting, silence is sacred. Anyone can love you loudly for a moment. Few can love you quietly for a lifetime. When love grows in silence, it becomes deeper, wiser, more stable. It's no longer about proving, it's about being. It's no longer about attention, it's about connection. Silence refines love the same way time refines gold. It burns away the superficial and reveals what's pure. Love doesn't need to echo across rooms to be real. Sometimes the strongest love exists in the quiet exchange of understanding eyes, in shared peace after chaos, in the comfort of knowing without words that you are safe. So don't chase noise. Don't mistake chaos for passion or words for devotion. Let silence do its work. Let the space between conversations strengthen the bond, because love that can survive silence can survive anything. When a man begins to resist, withdraw, or seem detached after deep emotional connection, most people rush to label it as indifference. They say, "Hair's losing interest." But that's not always the truth. That resistance you feel, that quiet tension, is often his way of processing intensity. Because when a man truly feels something powerful, it collides with everything has been taught about control, independence, and vulnerability. Understand this: men are conditioned to fight battles outside, not inside. They're taught to face challenges with logic, not emotion. So when love arrives, when connection becomes real, it doesn't just touch them, it unlocks them. It exposes layers they've kept sealed for years. That's not easy. The intensity of genuine emotion disrupts his internal structure. It demands that he rethink who he is, what he wants, and what he's willing to give. His resistance isn't avoidance, it's self-defense against the flood of feelings he doesn't yet know how to carry. Emotional resistance is not rejection, it's reflection. When a man starts to care deeply, he's forced to confront his greatest fear: losing control. Because love to him is unpredictable. It's not something he can manage, plan, or dominate. It demands surrender, and that surrender feels like weakness until he learns that real strength is not in control, but in openness. That's the war within him between the part that wants to feel and the part that's terrified to. So when he pulls away, don't misread it. He's not trying to erase what you've built. He's trying to make sense of it. He's learning to carry emotion without drowning in it. That's what emotional resistance truly is. It's the process of integration. He's merging logic with feeling, identity with vulnerability. He's learning that love isn't something that strips him of power. It's something that transforms it. You have to understand, for many men, intensity equals danger. When something starts to matter too much, their instinct is to step back, to breathe, to ensure they're not being consumed. That's not emotional immaturity, it's survival. Because every man knows deep down that once he truly gives his heart, he can't take it back. So he resists not because he doesn't care, but because he cares too much. And that's where most women misunderstand the masculine mind. They think resistance means lack of emotion, when in truth it's the opposite. Indifference doesn't resist, it simply moves on. Only emotion deep enough to shake a man's foundation can trigger that kind of inner conflict. The man who resists is often the one who's fighting hardest to stay grounded while his world shifts under the weight of feeling. Emotional resistance is also a test not of love, but of endurance. It reveals whether the connection is strong enough to survive uncertainty. If the woman responds with panic, chase, or emotional chaos, it confirms his fear that love means loss of control. But if she responds with calm strength, groundedness, and self-respect, something shifts. He realizes that love doesn't have to destroy his order, it can coexist with it. And that's when resistance begins to soften. The woman who understands this dynamic doesn't beg for emotional expression. She allows space. She lets him wrestle with himself. Because she knows when he comes back from that war, he'll come back more certain, more open, more present. A man who's processed his emotions through resistance becomes a man who can love with stability, not impulse. You see, intensity without resistance is dangerous. It burns too fast. Resistance slows the process down. It turns raw passion into meaningful connection. It's the emotional break that prevents him from losing himself completely before he understands the depth of what's happening. And that's not weakness, that's wisdom. When he resists, he's not building a wall against you, he's building a bridge within himself. He's trying to ensure that what he feels is real, not reactive. That's why pushing him only increases the distance. You don't force understanding, you allow it to unfold. His silence, his hesitation, his pause, they're not rejection, they're recalibration. A mature love recognizes that resistance is part of evolution. It's the refining fire where emotion becomes devotion. A man who's never resisted has never truly felt, because only intensity can trigger resistance, and only resistance can transform intensity into purpose. So don't mistake his pause for apathy. Don't take his quiet for indifference. He's not ignoring you. He's rebuilding himself to handle what he feels for you. That's what emotional resistance truly is, not a wall, but a doorway he's still learning how to walk through. And when he finally does, when he emerges from that inner conflict, you'll see it clearly. His love won't be impulsive. It will be grounded, steady, unshakable, because love that has been processed through resistance is love that has been earned. Anyone can talk, anyone can say what sounds right in the moment, the promises, the sweet reassurances, the emotional poetry of temporary passion. But words by themselves mean nothing without the energy to sustain them. True connection is never proven through constant noise, it's proven through steady presence. It's not the person who talks the most that you can trust, it's the one whose energy doesn't change when the conversation ends. Real connection isn't loud. It's consistent. It's the unspoken rhythm between two people who don't need to explain everything to understand each other. The ones who last don't need to perform love. They live it. They show up not with constant declarations, but with consistent stability. Their energy doesn't fluctuate with mood or distance. It remains steady because it's anchored in truth, not performance. When someone truly values you, you'll feel it in the calm of their consistency. They don't need to prove themselves every day with perfect words because their actions speak quietly but clearly. They respect your peace. They protect your trust. They hold space even when they're not physically there. That's real connection, not the storm of constant talking, but the calm of unwavering energy. Words can be rehearsed. Energy can't. You can fake interest, you can fake kindness, you can fake promises, but you can't fake consistency. The truth of someone's heart always show. WS up in their patterns. It's not about what they say they'll do, it's about what they continue to do, even when no one's watching. Real connection is built in the invisible, the steady gestures, the quiet presence, the reliability that never needs applause. People who chase constant communication are often addicted to reassurance, not connection. They think words equal love, but that's emotional noise. It fades the moment validation stops. True love, however, doesn't demand constant reminders. It trusts the bond. It breathes in silence and thrives in calm. When the energy between two people is real, they don't need to talk every hour to feel close. Their presence lingers, even in distance. Steady energy builds emotional security. It's the foundation that keeps two souls aligned through storms. The person who stays consistent, even when life gets chaotic, is showing you something sacred loyalty without dramatics. That's strength. That's maturity. The real measure of connection is not how passionately someone speaks, but how reliably they show up when things grow quiet, hard, or uncertain. A man who truly connects with you doesn't just speak to impress you, he aligns his actions with his words. His energy remains steady even when emotions fluctuate. He may not flood your phone with constant texts, but his presence never disappears. You feel his care in the small details, in how he listens, how he protects your peace, how he makes sure his energy adds stability to your life, not confusion. That's what emotional leadership looks like. The truth is, connection rooted in constant words collapses under silence. Because when words are gone, there's nothing left to hold on to. But connection rooted in energy remains even when communication slows. You can feel it, a subtle current that doesn't waver. That's when you know it's real. It's not about how often you talk, but about how deeply you understand each other, even when you don't. Real energy is peaceful, not performative. It doesn't rush to convince. It doesn't fluctuate with emotion. It stands firm, calm, and clear. The people who master that energy are the ones who form bonds that outlast chaos. They're not perfect, but they're predictable in the best way. You always know where you stand with them. And here's the truth that separates real connection from illusion. Intensity without consistency is manipulation. Anyone can create emotional highs. It takes discipline to maintain emotional steadiness. The person who truly connects with you won't need to overwhelm you with affection. Their energy will simply feel safe. So, if you're constantly asking yourself, why did the words stop? Stop chasing noise. Pay attention to energy. Watch how people behave when the excitement fades, when silence enters, when life gets heavy. The one who stays emotionally aligned through all that, that's your proof of connection. Because true connection doesn't live in the volume of communication. It lives in the reliability of energy. It's not measured by how Any times they say they care, it's measured by how their presence feels, even when they're not speaking. When two people share a real bond, they don't rely on constant words to remind each other it exists. Their energies recognize each other silently, consistently, faithfully. They don't need to fill every moment with noise because their connection speaks in calm certainty. Noise fades, words vanish, but steady energy, that's what endures. The world is full of people who talk beautifully and act inconsistently. Don't be moved by volume, be moved by vibration. Find the one whose energy doesn't rise and fall with emotion, the one who gives you peace instead of adrenaline. That's not weakness, that's real strength. Because in the end, true connection isn't spoken, it's felt. It's not proven in words that echo, it's proven in energy that stays.